The WA Training Awards are the premier awards program in this state, and they do recognise excellence in vocational education and training, most importantly, your outstanding achievements for whether you're a student, a trainee, a trainer, or an apprentice. This is your chance to shine. The awards do recognise excellence in your achievements, but more importantly, in some ways, they're about the end result, which is having ambassadors for training, for TAFE, and for your industry at the end of the day. And that's what the winners will be doing, being ambassadors for training and ambassadors for TAFE and ambassadors for your industry. So if you keep that in mind while you're writing your applications, you'll be on the right path to a very successful application, which will get you through to the next stage where you can work with me. Okay, why me? I am a former managing director of part of this college when it was in a different format. And that helps me because I know just how marvellous TAFE is and how marvellous the experience of training can be in changing people's lives. In addition, I am a former journalist. I've worked in a lot of places, including the ABC, both as a journalist and also in public relations and marketing. And I think that experience helps me get down to the nitty-gritty of what's required. And more importantly, perhaps, it's taught me the advantage of a personal story. And if your application can be alive with your personal story, you'll find that it'll be more readable, more acceptable, and more exciting to the judges. So you might think, well, I don't really have much of a personal story. I'm just an ordinary person. And I can tell you that in my experience, and I have interviewed everyone from rock stars to billionaires to people who had massive ownerships to scientists, and all of them were interesting, authors. However, I found just as moving a story from the average person on the street with their triumphs, sometimes tragedies, and their achievements. And trust me, your story will be the best story that it can be if you let that come through in your application. And that will help the judges to see who you are and what kind of ambassador you might be. This is my favourite job of the year. I normally do the coaching. I've been doing that for 5 years, and I enjoy meeting the semi-finalists and getting them to the next stage. And I've had some singular successes which have been very rewarding. Okay. So these are the categories. I think you're probably already aware of the categories that you fit, and hopefully you've already had a look at them. If you have any problems, then please contact the marketing team in the fabulous North Metropolitan TAFE, and their email will come up at the end of this session. But more importantly, think about nominating now for one of these 7 categories. Okay, why you? As I said, you've got a great story. It's important to share it. And why would you share it? Because it inspires somebody else who might be just like you, hovering on the brink of a changing career or reaching up to do greater things. So your story will have impact because it will be inspirational for them. You can't actually win unless you actually go into this. And the winners get $3,000 for enhancing their training and career. Sorry, gone one too quickly. And a trip to Tasmania, which is paid for. When the semi-finalists when the finalists in this category, the WA Training Awards, become semi-finalists in the national awards, and they go on to compete in Tasmania. Now, of course, you know that you'll feel wonderful if you win and it'll enhance your career. What you may not think about is how much it will enhance your kudos, your goodwill with your boss or at your school or in your industry. That's been a very interesting thing to watch, and it shows that you're ambitious and committed and somebody worth investing in. And finally, Everybody, whether they win or not, has said that they've had a wonderful boost to their portfolio, CV, and job applications by getting it together in this way and going through this process. I think Jasmine will agree with me. A lot of people who've been through this process say that it was really worthwhile, and it's enhanced their confidence when they go on to apply for jobs and other things in their career. And I think hopefully that I've convinced you, but if I haven't, when you get to be a semi-finalist and you get an hour and a half's coaching with me, some people say that that's been worth the whole experience. Now, don't like to blow my own trumpet, but why not? It's lovely to meet you, and my passion is people and helping them do better. So stick with me. Let's get through this. Okay. Here are the semi-finalists from last year. You'll notice in this group there's a preponderance of women. That's not typical, but this bunch of women were remarkable. Second from the left is Sophie Pitaro, who was our school-based apprentice, and she was a winner of the category. Sometimes we have more than one semi-finalist in each category because you're doing so well. But trust me, it's been a wonderful experience. I speak to all of the people who go on to that stage after the judging, and everybody has been excited about being part of the process. So click on these images if you can at home when you get the package. I think some of them give testimonials, but more importantly than that, can you see yourself in this picture? They look pretty pleased with themselves, I think, and hopefully you will as you go through. Hopefully you're still all with me. So the applications are open and they close on Friday, the 28th of April at 5 o'clock. Now, you might put this date in your diary. That would be quite an important thing to do as a commitment. But wait, there's more. As with all of these wonderful presentations, there is a free offer. At the end of the session, you'll see that the fantastic North Metro TAFE marketing team are offering to go through your application and read it, give you feedback, proof it. And to get that exciting free offer, you'll need to get your application in by the 17th of April. So that's the date you should put in your calendar now. Now, you know what that means. You probably better put April the 14th in your calendar because you'll want to have something to give that team by the 17th. And that shows you really how much time we have to get these applications together. Now, I know it's nearly Easter, and for some of you, that'll mean that you've got some time to put into preparing your application. For others, it might mean you're going away with family and you won't have any time at all. I know today is Ramadan and Passover starts next week in the interest of diversity. So for one reason or another, many of you will have celebrations and religious observances that will limit your time available. So my message is get your application in now because, as I said before, selected winners go on to the Australian Training Awards in Tasmania, and what an exciting event that is. So, can you help yourself? Start soon, start now. Maybe you could do a tiny little bit each day. Okay, we've talked about why me, and we've talked about why you. I want to take the other perspective for a moment because it will help you as you frame your answers. Why them? First of all, the judges want you to succeed. You'll be amazed, and as I said, I have been on these panels, just how hard the judges work to get the best out of your application. They want you to succeed. The kind of people who are drawn into training and TAFE are people who want to give you a fair go. They really are quite remarkable people. So that's good news. But the not so good news is there'll be a number of applications. How will they remember you when it comes to putting down the last application? How will you stand out for them? Can you think about that as you put your application together? I've got a couple of hints. One is to think of 3 things that when they close your application after having read about you, 3 things that they will remember about you. Now, it might be a quality, it might be your enthusiasm, or it might be your vision, or it might be how you've helped other students, or your commitment to your industry. Any one of those things will do, but you want a hook that they remember you by. That said, there is a simple way to help them remember you, and it comes back to the story that I talked about in the very beginning. So if you tell your story, you will be being real. You will be the real you, not a polished up you for the application. You want the real you to come through. Australians particularly love what they call an authentic story or an authentic leader, somebody who's real. So let's work on that, and I'll talk about somebody who did that in the next slide. Let's go through and have a look. And to remind you that the winner will be an ambassador. Are you ready to tell the world about your great experience? Are you ready to be an ambassador? Let's think of that from the very beginning, and let's work towards inspiring others. Okay, what are the judges really looking for? That's what we've talked about. Here's Kevin. Now, Kevin was as you can see, the WA Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Student of the Year in 2021. He's a great example of a real and authentic story. And although he did very well in his graphic design course, and he had a terrific referee statement from his lecturer, it was his journey that would have stuck in the judge's mind as it did in mine. Kevin got repeatedly into trouble for his graffiti. And it got to the stage where it was either looking at a sentence or taking an action on his own behalf that would help him get on a better path to life. And he enrolled in TAFE. And of course, at TAFE, he found a way to use his talent for the benefit of others. But what's interesting about Kevin is, having started with that rough and shaky start, he ended up by seeing an opportunity because he saw that Aboriginal students like himself were not being valued for their artworks, and their artworks weren't being recognised with significant enough reward financially. So he started by helping 1 or 2 of his friends, going with them to corporate boards and to government councils and sitting down with senior people in industry. And he was so successful that more and more students asked him, and it actually became a business. Now, that's a very strong story. And you might be thinking, well, my story is nothing like that. But remember what I said, your story is about you. Everybody's story is different. And when I come to talk to you about Sophie Pitaro, who won last year as the school-based apprentice, you'll see that she didn't have such a story. She was too young. She was starting out and she was at school. But she was able to win the judges with her enthusiasm, her vibrant personality and her commitment. So whatever is your 3 things, those are the things that you want to come through. Okay, let's get to the nitty-gritty. How do I apply? Now, I won't sing you this song for those of you who can remember, but it is as easy as ABC, and we're going to talk about that now. So there's an overview, selection criteria for questions, required attachments, and I would urge you to look up the application relevant to you and look at the required attachments now so that you can start gathering that the evidence for those forms. It may be something like visa information for international and culturally diverse applicants. It could be a permission from a parent or guardian if you're under 18, but there'll be required attachments for you depending on your category. The supporting evidence I'll cover later on, but there is an opportunity for you to add to your application. You don't need to do this much, but there are up to 5 pages that you can put in to support your application. And I've seen many successful applications use this opportunity to put in certificates from diverse activities, etc., and we'll talk about that later. The important point here, though, is that applications must be submitted online through the WA Training Awards application. And our lovely team at North Metro TAFE, if they haven't already sent them to you, Word templates and a checklist is available online. Okay, the overview. There's a 300-word limit. Think about that for a minute. The limits are your friends, really. Once you start writing, you'll wonder how you can possibly fit in what you want to say in 300 words for the overview or 400 for the selection criteria, for each of the selection criteria. It's not so much. And you can see in this one, with the 3 questions up there, that's 100 words each. So while you want to get some interesting descriptions in there, you have to remember that you're not going to exceed the limit. Otherwise, you're going to weary the judges, and you don't want to do that. 1 or 2 categories have 1 or 2 additional questions, and your reason for choosing industry and a training path is one such question, and for others, that'll come up in a later selection criteria. If you can answer all of these questions, if you get stuck, please talk to the team at North Metro TAFE. Let's get down to the real deal. Selection criterion 1 is about your career and study achievements. So far, so good. That looks pretty straightforward. Again, you have a 400-word limit. Now, it's important that I stop here to say that not all of these questions will be the same for every category. Please see that note there. It's complicated for me to try and talk to all of you, and I don't know which categories you're in, but I'll try and do that. And please ask a question if I'm not clear. So why did you choose your course? Has it changed or impacted you? And what have you gained from it? They are questions for the mainstream people who are vocational, apprentice, school-based apprentice, I'm pretty certain. Those people who are in culturally diverse and international categories, those last 2 questions, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Those last 2 questions, what challenges impacted your training and how has your job assisted your skills development? That one is for schools. So the challenges is in 3 categories. The schools is the job assisting your skills development. Again, show your judges who you are by telling your stories. Selection criteria, yes, they're questions. Particularly, they're questions that ask for you to demonstrate, that's the word, demonstrate, why you should be the winner and what you might be like as an ambassador. So they're looking to see that you can do these things. So when we look at what you've gained from it, you might be talking to other people as an ambassador about what you've gained from training. Or when you talk about what you've brought to your workplace, you might be telling them about the kind of person you are when you're working in your industry. So remember your word limit. Try and make it live. I'll give you a hint. I was thinking you might say, why did you choose your course? Not that it was recommended to you, which I'm sure it has been in many instances, but you might say something that is true for you, as long as it's true for you. So, for example, I could see the huge demand for workers in the health industry and I really wanted to make a difference. Or ever since I was a boy or girl, helping my father in the shed, I've always wanted to be a carpenter. So something a little bit lively would really help you when you come to answer these questions. Now, I hope you're all still with me. I haven't had any questions that have come up, so please stay with me and interrupt if you need to. It's useful to think of the STAR method when you are responding. Some of you may have heard of the STAR method. It's about the situation, task, action, and result. Some of you this may be different for some of you. So the STAR approach covers the story in a short space of time. So the situation is what was happening. I'll give you an example in a minute. The task is your challenge or what you took on to do yourself. The action is what you did, and the result is the outcome. So let's talk about Kevin. We talked about him before. The situation was he saw that many people who were artists in the Aboriginal area were not getting recognised for the quality of their work and not getting paid appropriately. The task he chose to take on was to assist them by speaking on their behalf to industry and to government. And the action he took was, the task was to solve that problem, and the action he took was to speak to industry and to government alongside these candidates. And the result was, A, the Aboriginal artists got more money for their work and were better recognised, and B, he got a ongoing career out of that work, which he hadn't expected. So I hope that's clear. The situation is what's happening. The task is what he saw was needed to be done. The action is what he did, and the result is what happened afterwards. Don't be too bogged down by this, but they are an important guide, and they will help you see whether you've answered the questions. It's a good way of checking. Okay, selection 2. Criterion 2 is team and communication skills, as you can see. These skills, as you have heard, are very valuable because they help an ambassador talk about why other people should do training, TAFE, be an apprentice, work in their industry, take a school-based apprenticeship, whatever you're going to be promoting. So they're asking you here, not for culturally diverse and international, I'll come to yours in a minute, but they're asking you here, what have you been able to tell others, your workmates, employers, in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander category? What have you told your community? What do you like about working in a team setting? A good ambassador will need to be a team player as well as a leader. And what traits or characteristics, personal characteristics, do you think are important to influence others? I'll come back to that one in a minute. It's a very important criterion because we're looking for someone who's excited about their training and using their training in their job, so much so that they really can't help telling other people about how good it is. Perhaps you've already brought other people into training because you've been such a good role model. I'd like to give you another hint here. When you're talking about TAFE, please say TAFE in your application, and where possible, North Metropolitan TAFE, because in the old days, and some of your bosses may still say tech or other words, that isn't what we're promoting here. Now, we may be promoting training, and you may have a group trainer, and sure, promote them, but when you're talking about TAFE, say TAFE. And please do promote your industry, your employer, and your group trainer as well, where that's relevant. This is your chance to give back. And by giving back and recognising your great boss, your great group trainer, your great lecturers, this is your opportunity to show that you can be a good winner, because a good winner is a good ambassador. And for culturally diverse and international, you're going to be asked how your oral and written skills have improved here. And these are really more or less the same things. How have you been better able to communicate to others? And how would you be able to communicate to others if you were an ambassador and a winner? All right, hopefully you're with me. I'm moving on. A little bit of a break from all those words. Here's Sophie. Sophie was fascinating. She was last year's School-Based Apprentice of the Year. And to be honest, she hadn't given much thought about the possibility of winning when she applied. She'd been encouraged, and she was very vague when she thought about what it was all about. However, I have to say about Sophie, once she saw what was possible, she was very determined and very committed and determined to win. And it was that energy, commitment, and enthusiasm that drove Sophie to impact on the judges, both in her application and in her interview. And it was infectious, very lively, vital, and friendly. Simple, small things that can be shown to be very powerful if that is the kind of person you are. And I'd like to give you another hint. Now is the time to think like a winner. Now is the time not to be modest. I had a applicant one year who was a semi-finalist, a young woman in hospitality, possibly 2018 or 19. And she had got through on her application, but she sloped into the room in such an embarrassed way. I had to make her go out and walk back in several times before she walked in like a winner. And I suspect some of you are in the sporting arenas, you already know about the power of thinking like a winner. So now is the time to dig deep and trust yourself. Your story is as good as anybody else's. Give it your best shot. Like Sophie, who says roughly in her guide, something like, have a go, you never know what might happen. Selection criterion 3, ability to be an ambassador. And here they've got in brackets representative for training in Australia. I'm going to start by talking about leadership. Now, I'll point out points 1, 2, and 3 are not for you if you're culturally diverse or international. I'll come to you in a minute. But leadership may well be relevant if you get past this stage and get into the semi-finals. So what I'm going to say may still have impact for you because it's often in the questions in the interview. So leading can be many things. It's obvious your lecturer is a leader or your boss is a leader. And you might be a leader if you're at school in a school position like a captain, sports captain, or a senior person in the school. But it can mean many things. It can also mean that you're stepping up at work when you see a problem or something that could be done better. Nothing better than that attitude in the workplace. And what you do is either shared by you with other people or shared by the workplace with other people. That's also a place of leadership, a time of leadership. Sporting applicants, of course, made some great responses in this category. It could be in a church or cultural group, a community group, especially for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicants. I've seen many very strong community leaders in this category. And I just want to say now about the second dot point. Representative is slightly different. It's when you might be, for example, a spokesperson standing up on behalf of a group, maybe a group of students who were too embarrassed to ask the lecturer something. You might have been participating in a forum or speaking up on behalf of workmates. Again, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, you might be standing up on behalf of your community or indeed international and culturally diverse. I've seen, again, lots of representatives in that category. And how would you describe the quality of your training? While this is in the category of apprentice, vocational, student of the year and school-based, you might want to listen to this even if you're culturally and internationally applicants in this, because what we want to talk about not only is how good your training is, but how does it compete? How does it stand up in your industry? Do we have the latest developments? Do we have some good ways around solving problems? Have the lecturers gone an extra mile. And having worked as a managing director, I know that's bread and butter for the lecturers who work in TAFE. So we want to talk about the quality of your training in this answer. The cultural and diverse and international, if you won this award, hey, would you promote the training? I think we've covered that a little bit earlier. What have you learned about new developments and trends in your workplace or industry? You've got this question now. Many people who go on to be a semi-finalist will have a similar question when they go into interviews. And international only, what do you think are the best things about studying in WA? We want WA to be a winner in the Australian Training Awards. So have a good think about what you've found to be remarkable about being in our very great state. Okay, here's Anthony Di Cristofaro. Now you'll see he goes right back to 2019. Anthony is quite a remarkable person and in many ways a very ordinary chap as well. You might be thinking now, oh, hold on a minute, Sue, I've got way too much on for me to be doing this. And here is a winner who had too much on. Anthony was a mature age apprentice who was struggling to meet the requirements of managing and supporting a family as a mature age apprentice, having given up earlier work. As he was going through the application process, his son was rushed to hospital emergency with a burst appendix. And if that wasn't enough to keep him busy, on his bike, on his way to the hospital, a woman opened a car door and knocked him off his bike and he broke his leg. And he had to come to the interviews with his leg in a boot. Now, somehow, Anthony found time to undertake to do an application and to do it well. And he found time to go through the interview process, even when everything was telling him he had other things calling on his time. And he wasn't only a winner, but winning and discovering how good he was at being an ambassador opened up choices that he didn't know were available, and those choices changed his career life. So we've got some ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and believe me, you can be just as extraordinary as Anthony, Sophie, and Kevin. Selection criterion 4. Now, I've got 3 slides on this. Bear with me. So this first slide, if you're in the culturally diverse and international categories, is not for you. You can be busily writing the dates in your diary while you're listening to me. However, I'll touch base on yours and on the questions for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders next. Some of those questions might also be the same for you. So have you had to address any challenges during your training? I know this is in the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders elsewhere. What we're looking for is some more insights into you as a well-rounded person. We're looking for insights into your character and your community life in this category. We want to see what other kind of things you might bring to being a ambassador and a winner. And I've seen some remarkable candidates with stories about great work in putting together forums for cultural groups, standing up for Aboriginal rights, in making changes in the workplace. I had a terrific Vietnamese candidate who was in many ways an absolute problem solver and made some wonderful changes in the workplace, and had overcome a number of challenges in his personal life at the same time. So this is your opportunity to get that story down, and I think they're pretty straightforward. Initiatives not only in your training but in your personal life or workplace, and your community work experience that you might have had, any special qualities, any qualities that you have that you believe might help you be a great ambassador. Now's the time. This is, in many ways, a very personal category. I'm just going to go now to the Aboriginal, culturally diverse and international category. There are some areas that they say you may wish to include information about. And remember, you've only got a 400-word limit for both you and the people I was speaking to previously. What are your achievements in areas other than study? If you've had some training, what's the impact on your community? That's very much a story that might be of value for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicants. If you're involved in the community, culturally diverse people especially, how is that working? What have you done there? And for culturally diverse candidates, do you have a long-term plan to contribute to the Australian community? Now, that's a challenging question. If you have any questions about this, or indeed this next question, which only the brave will tackle, this is for culturally diverse and international students only. The others will breathe a sigh of relief. What is your understanding of current social, economic and political issues in Australia? On this one only, if you wish to tackle this question, let's discuss this outside this forum. I've provided my email and I will do my best to guide you to make some choices, not by answering, but to guide you. And I look forward to doing that because that's a challenging question. Okay. Let's move on to the required attachments and supporting evidence. All of you will need a reference on the reference template, but there is a 2-page limit. It doesn't look like it is there. I've seen some references that have been short, but punchy and very valuable. So it doesn't have to be a burden for your employer or school or lecturer. Whoever you're asking, don't be embarrassed. It will show that you're committed to your industry, that you're ambitious, and that you're keen to go places. So it will be a positive. And often in the past, in fact, even in my past, I've found when I've done this, people have looked at me in a different light. People have seen me for what I've been doing. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to ask at the higher levels, to ask your big boss or your principal, because it will be valuable if you do, and they can only say no, and it's no shame if they do, but I think they nearly always will. You also need to sign a talent release form, and this is what we think of you. We think you all are talent. And what this means essentially is that you give the department and college freedom to use the photographs and information provided. But it does sound like fun, doesn't it? Qualification certificate, pretty straightforward. Proof of permanent residency. This might mean quite a few documents for those of you who are culturally diverse or international candidates. And now's the time to get onto that because there will be visa requirements, etc., for you to do. The additional specific requirements, let me encourage you very much to go and look at your own, because there will be documents from employers, documents from schools, essentially being waivers for you to be part of this, because there will be time requirements if you get to be a semi-finalist. And to be honest, there are so few of you. I hope you're all semi-finalists. I was expecting many more, and I'm sure there are more working away as we speak. So please start on this now. Look up what you need. If you have any problems with the specific requirements, then talk to the team at North Metro TAFE. Now, here's their wonderful offer. They are offering to help you by reviewing your application. So again, start your working back from those dates now. I would put the 17th of April in your calendar. It's such a wonderful offer trust me, they're a marketing team. They're here really ready to help. And as I've said before, if you're a semi-finalist, I will get to have you for an hour and a half. We have a fantastic time. And to be honest, people who've been through that session have said they see it as free interview prep, and you'll be able to use it because it is about you, your talents, your skills, your character, and your story. And I really enjoy those sessions. So please get your applications in, and let's start doing this together. Now, let's move on to finding out more. This is the department website. There's a lot of information on there. The college will send you the application package following this meeting, so they're making it easy. Here is their website. Please contact them if you have any inquiries. Contact me if you're going to tackle that challenging question, or if there's something that you don't feel up to saying in this forum. And let's move on to the good part, questions.
Oh, hello. Hi, my name is Goodness. I'm an international student for TAFE
Yes?
and North Metro. I just wanted to ask a question. Are there going to be two application essays, like documents? Because the overview says a 300-word limit, and then the selection criteria says 400-word limit. So I was wondering if there are going to be two typed out documents separately.
No, what essentially that is first there's an overview, 300 words, and then there are 4 selection criterion, each with 400 words.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to me, that doesn't sound like very much, but obviously it's sounding a lot to you, Goodness, at the moment. But you know what? When you start, it won't be as much as you think, because each of those has got something like 4 questions, which is only 100 words per question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's not so much. So under each selection criterion are 4 parts, or in the main 4 parts. And so you'll find those words go quickly, but it is a lot to write, and you will want to start soon. Thanks, Goodness.
All right. Thank you very much.
And Goodness, if you do have that struggle putting together to make it that a little bit longer to reach the 400-word limit, that's what we're here for. So you can put together, like, answer each question that falls under each selection criteria as best as you can, and then Andrew and I are here to help to flesh it out, if to reach the 400-word limit. That's what we're here for.
Okay. All right. Just a follow-up question. How can I how would I communicate with you and Andy? Would it be via email or?
Yes, via email. So our email address is that marketing@nmtafe.wa.edu.au. I'll put it in the chat now so you can copy it.
All right. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thanks for asking a question, Goodness.
Thank you.
We've got some other questions in the chat, Sue.
All right.
So are you able to? Do you want me to read them out, or are you able to open?
Forgive me. Teams is a little bit.
That's all right. So
I
Jody's just
should
asked.
probably be able to see them, but it's a different format from the one I was using this morning. So
Yeah.
perhaps you could read them to me.
Yeah. I think Jody just asked, and it's more of a question for maybe me and Andrew. So your course finishes in July, and so submitting the certificate of enrollment vet program through high school. So I'm guessing, Jody, you're a vet DSS student, as you're still studying through high school. And and so you're going to finish it in July. That should be totally fine. You just submit your enrollment rather than your certificate, because you won't have your certificate until you and September, until you actually graduate in September, which is fine. And I'm just putting in our email address.
Thanks.
Our next question: how flexible is the selection criteria?
That's an interesting question, and a good question, actually. You do need to answer the aspect of the criterion, but the range is quite big. Do you have a specific example that you're thinking of? So let me have a think. So if you're looking at what one would be a good challenge? What have you brought to your workplace? Maybe, does that resonate, or has your job assisted in your skills development? If you started with what have you brought to your workplace, that could be anything. You could be speaking about your sporting experience where you've been a leader and you've faced some challenges and helped bring the team together to overcome them. If it was, has your job assisted in your skills development, then it might be, I don't know, maybe you're on the front desk or a help centre or whatever else it is, which would have helped your communication skills separate from the kind of job you were in, which might be working at a swimming pool as a coach, or working as a tradie in you know, one arena or another, but a business might have that front desk, whatever. So it can be broad. It's not specific to, you know, certain requirements, but you do need to answer that question. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, so I think it's Ali that's actually put in the example was entry date to Australia in regards
Oh.
to how flexible um, the selection criteria is. So I'm guessing how much information they provide from when they arrived in Australia.
I think it would be fine as long as you do meet the requirements in your eligibility. So if you go to the eligibility in your application pack and you meet those requirements, then I think you're all right, as long as you tick that box and you can show it. Is that what you mean?
Haven't got a reply yet, so
Okay.
still waiting.
Ali, you can keep going on that because we're not rushing.
Yeah. And I guess if they don't meet the requirements for the Cultural Diversity Award or the International Award, they would still be able to fall under vocational award anyway.
They should do, and maybe that's an area that you could help, Jasmine. If
Yep.
Ali, you speak to Jasmine, that would help.
Yep.
You make that choice.
Definitely. And you can send any further information about what you mean by that to the email address at marketing@nmtafe, and we can flesh that out for you. In regards to how many categories you can apply for, you can only apply for one award. You can't apply for multiple awards. So you would need to pick which one you're most suitable for, and run with that.
And again, I'm sure, Jasmine, they could talk to you if they had doubts.
That's it. Exactly.
Mm.
I've just got one more question. Yeah.
Angelica's asked, she's an international student and she doesn't have any professional experience in the field she's studying at the moment because she's doing IT.
Right.
The question is, how should she approach the question related to support or contributions in the workplace?
So at the moment, you're not having any work experience at all? Are you in the...
And she's just typing.
Yeah, you type away.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, you can speak.
Thank you so much.
It's quicker.
Yeah, actually no, but so I'm moving from industrial engineering. That's the bachelor's degree that I did in my country, And so in that field, I have experience, but in my home country. But in the IT industry, I don't have any work experience, so I don't know how to approach those questions that are asking, like, how is your, which one has been your contribution in your workplace? Because I haven't had the opportunity to work in IT.
I think that would be fine to talk about your contribution to the workplace previously. Don't you agree, Andrew? I mean, I think what they're looking for is what you bring to the workplace rather than, what you bring to IT. I know that you're changing your industry, but if you had an example that you thought was a good contribution, I think you would be able to extrapolate that you would also make such a good contribution in the tech industry when you got there. Are you?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Do you agree? Yeah. Are you getting any work placements as part of your course at the moment?
No, actually,
No,
no.
not yet. It's that kind of industry, isn't it, really? And I could have used your help, to be honest. Why aren't you here helping me?
I think
So,
actually, as well, Angelica, in your category, International Student of the Year, it might not actually ask about your work experience anyway, because that was an example, I think, for the vocational Student of the Year. So you might be okay with that one.
Ah, okay.
so which section did that come under? Do we remember? So I think no, I don't think you have got it actually.
I've got it up in front of me. So the career and study achievements.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to undertake it? What did you learn? Or how did you put this in practice? I guess you could say just in general, you might have helped your family members even. How's the course helped you? Yeah, so it doesn't, I don't think it actually says work experience. So I think you might be okay with that one. There's slightly different questions for each.
I know it's very
category.
confusing, and I'm sorry about that. I think so. Did you say international? You're in the international category?
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, definitely you haven't got those. You've got new developments and trends in your workplace or industry, and that should be in the tech industry because they're looking at where you are now.
Oh, perfect.
But other than that, it would be fine.
Perfect. And I just have another question, if that's okay.
Please.
And there's one section which is the reference section. So in that part, can we include references from my home country, or it just references here in Australia?
Do you have a reference, an ideal referee here in Australia? I mean, you've got a lecturer.
Exactly.
I would go with that first, but you've got 5 pages of possible additions, so you could definitely include a reference under that or even more.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's that last part of underneath the required documents, there's also that option to include others. So I definitely get a reference in Australia, preferably from your lecturer, since you're in the workplace. And then I would add others if you thought they were valuable.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're doing very well. I'd love to see all your faces. So any other questions? Do we have any more from Ali? That's not sorted. Okay.
Okay, I have one. Sorry, I totally it's goodness again. Hello, Sue. Yes,
Hi.
thank you so much for explaining everything properly to us. Thank you, Andrew and Jasmine as well. So I was contemplating between vocational student and the international student. So I think my question basically is concerning proof of the proof of permanent residency. I'm assuming if Jasmine would be able to give more light on that, like what documents would we have to bring up, especially for an international student that might be applying under the vocational student of the year? Like, yes, so that's basically my question. What documents do you think we should bring up to show as proof of permanent? It says permanent residency, so that's where
Yeah, so you would need your so the visa that you're on, are you on a student visa?
Yes, I'm a
Yeah,
student.
so that would limit you to only being able to apply for the international student.
Okay.
because yeah, unfortunately, it's not your visa as a student visa is not considered a permanent residency. So
Yeah.
to apply for the vocational student, you would need to have become a permanent resident by the time applications close.
All right then. All right. Thank you very much.